too beautiful for this trash. You should have told me you're broken before
And that
wasting
was
my
the
time.
height of it all. The height of the disrespect, the height of the kind of wickedness that doesn't even need fists because the words do the damage first. I still remember the glow of my phone in the dark that night. The way the room felt too quiet, like the walls were listening. It was one of those nights where sleep refuses to come, not because anything is wrong, but because your mind keeps asking a question you can't answer. How long will I keep doing life alone? Work had been heavy for months. Bills, deadlines, small disappointments that stack up like plates in a sink you keep promising you'll wash later. I wasn't broke, not even close. I just wasn't flashy. I didn't live to impress anyone. I lived to stay sane. But loneliness is a different kind of hunger. It makes you reach for things you swore you didn't need. So I downloaded a dating app. I told myself it was just curiosity, that I'd scroll for 5 minutes, laugh at the bios, delete it, go to bed. But 5 minutes turned into 30. 30 turned into an hour. And before I knew it, I was sitting up in bed, thumb moving like it had a job of its own. Faces, smiles, filters. I love adventures. Don't waste my time looking for my person. It all started a blur until I saw her. Her name was Lena. Her pictures looked like they were taken by people who knew what they were doing. Not bathroom selfies, not blurry angles. Actual photographs, the kind that say, I'm used to being looked at. She had this confident beauty, sharp, clean, almost expensive. Long hair, perfect skin, eyes that didn't look like they asked for attention, they expected it. Her bio was short. Good energy only. Don't be boring. I laughed under my breath. That line had become a trend, but something about her made it feel less like a copy and more like a warning. I hesitated. Then I swiped right. My phone buzzed almost immediately. It's a match. I blinked like the app was playing with me. How? That fast? A message popped up. Finally. I was starting to think nobody here had taste. I stared at it, half amused, half confused. I typed back. Or maybe you were starting to think you're the prize. She replied in seconds. I am. Just like that. I should have taken it as a red flag. I should have closed the app and slept like a responsible adult. But the truth is, part of me liked the fire in it. It felt different from the careful, polite conversations that die after 3 messages. So I entertained it. We chatted into the night. She had opinions on everything. Restaurants, music, people. She spoke like the world was a place designed for her comfort, and everybody else was just living in it by permission. Still, she was funny, sharp, and she kept my attention. At some point, she asked what I did. I told her. I kept it simple. Good job, stable life. She asked where I lived. I told her the area. Not too specific. Then she sent, so you're not a bum. Good. I paused with my thumb in the air. Not a bum wasn't a compliment. It was a test. But I laughed it off and wrote, you're very welcoming. She sent a laughing emoji. Then, I don't do pity dates. If I say yes, it means I actually like you. That line landed in my chest in a way I didn't expect. I told myself it didn't matter. That was just flirting. But it mattered. Because when you've been alone for a while, even a little validation starts to feel like rain after drought. 2 days later, we moved the chat off the app. She sent voice notes. Her voice sounded expensive too. Like she had never had to beg for anything. Like she'd never waited in a line she didn't want to stand in. One evening, she said, let's meet. I replied, sure. When? Tomorrow. My mind did a quick scan of my life. Tomorrow was tight, but I could make it work. Where? She sent the name of a restaurant I'd heard of, high-end, the kind of place where the menu doesn't show prices. I stared at it. It wasn't that I couldn't afford it. I could, but I didn't like being set up. I didn't like being evaluated. Still, I told myself, it's just one dinner. So I agreed. We settled on a time. I offered to meet there. She replied, no. Pick me up. There it was. That subtle demand that wasn't a question. Send your location, she added. I hesitated again. Not because of the location, but because of what picking her up implied. It wasn't just logistics. It was presentation. It was her way of seeing how I moved, what I drove, how I showed up. I looked outside at my car the next morning and exhaled. It was a good car. Clean. Reliable. Not old. Not rusted. Not embarrassing. But it wasn't a luxury badge. It didn't scream money. It whispered responsibility. I washed it anyway, vacuumed the seats, wiped the dashboard, even added a subtle air freshener. I dressed well, black jacket, clean shirt, watch. Not flashy, just sharp. As I drove to her address, my heart beat like I was heading to an interview. Maybe I was. The neighborhood she sent was different. The houses were wide and silent, with gates that looked like they could block the sun. Security cameras on corners. Neatly trimmed trees like somebody paid them to stand straight. I parked at the curb and checked myself in the mirror. Relax, I told my reflection. It's just a date. I messaged, I'm outside. Minutes passed. Then I saw her. She stepped out like she was walking onto a runway. Red dress. Not loud red, power red. The kind of red that makes people turn their heads without meaning to. She walked toward the car slowly, like she wanted to be seen. And then she stopped. Not at my window, at the front of the car. She stood there, looking at it like it had insulted her mother. I watched her through the windshield, confused. Then she leaned slightly, eyes scanning, lips tightening. She didn't wave, didn't smile. She walked around the side, slowly, and finally came to the driver's window. I rolled it down. Hey, I said, giving her my best calm smile. You look amazing. She didn't respond to the compliment. She tilted her head and stared into the car, not at me. Then her eyes met mine, and she said it, softly, like she was disappointed in a waiter. You should have told me you were still struggling. The words didn't hit like a slap. They hit like a door closing. My smile froze. I tried to laugh, like maybe she was joking. Struggling. I repeated. Because of my car? She looked away, then back at me, as if the question bored her. I just assumed from the way you spoke. She gestured vaguely, like the air itself was beneath her. I thought you were doing better. My chest tightened. There were 100 things I could have said. That this car was paid for. That I had savings. That I didn't waste money on symbols. That my priorities were different. But none of that mattered in that moment, because she had already decided what I was. Not a man. A category. She took a step back and folded her arms. I swallowed. So are you still coming? She looked at me like I'd asked her to eat off the floor. Be serious. That's when I felt heat rise behind my eyes. Not tears, but humiliation. The kind that makes you aware of your breathing. I glanced around. A security guard near a gate hadn't noticed. A neighbor walking a dog slowed down. Someone across the street had stopped and looked. Public shame doesn't need a stage. It only needs witnesses. I tried to keep my voice steady. Lena, I didn't come here to impress you. I came because I like talking to you. She laughed, one short laugh. Then she said, talking is free. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. She stepped closer to the hood, leaned slightly, and said in a tone that sounded almost playful, I'm not riding in this. I felt something break inside me, quiet and invisible. I could have driven off right then. I should have. But my pride argued with my self-respect, and pride is loud when it's wounded. I got out of the car. Look, I said, palms open, trying to keep it calm. If you don't want to go, that's fine. But you don't have to insult me. She stared at me for a second. Then her face changed, like my refusal to accept her judgment offended her. You're raising your voice? She said, loud enough for the street. Wow, I wasn't raising my voice. I was speaking normally. But the way she said it made it sound like I was dangerous. That's when I noticed something else. 2 men in suits had appeared near the gate, watching. Not neighbors. Not randoms. Security. And the way they stood, still, alert, made my stomach drop. Lena glanced at them like she owned them. Then she looked back at me and said quietly, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, don't embarrass yourself. I took a breath. I'm not embarrassing myself. I'm just asking you not to. She cut me off. Not to what? Not to tell the truth. My jaw clenched. I looked around again and realized more people were watching now. And then I heard the first phone camera shutter. A woman across the street had her phone up. Someone else raised theirs too. Lena saw it and didn't flinch. She liked it. This was attention. This was power. This was her world. She stepped closer to my windshield, and that's when she saw something on my dashboard, a small plastic phone mount. She smirked. Oh, so you do rideshare too? I blinked. What? No. She pointed at the mount. That thing. You drive people around. That's why you're here, right? Practice date pickup. The crowd murmured. A few people laughed. I felt my face burn. It's for GPS, I said quickly, hating how defensive I sounded. She shrugged. Whatever helps you sleep. That's when she reached into a small designer bag and pulled out something heavy. A hammer. At first, I thought it was a joke, like some weird prop. Then she raised it slightly, and the security men didn't stop her. My brain couldn't catch up fast enough. Lena, I started. She leaned in, her voice low, but still loud enough to cut. Since you like cheap things here, let me upgrade your view. And before I could move, she slammed the hammer down on the windscreen. Driver's side, right in front of me. The glass didn't fully break, but it exploded into cracks, spidering outward like lightning trapped onto the surface. I froze. For a second, all I heard was the ringing in my ears and a sharp gasp from the crowd. Then she hit it again. Cracks spread wider. I stumbled backward, mouth open, hands lifting to my head without permission. My legs felt weak. Inside the car, my reflection looked like a man watching his life get disrespected in real time. Phones went up everywhere. People were recording openly now. Some shouting, some laughing, some horrified. And Lena looked calm. She lowered the hammer and stared at me like she had proven something. You see, she said, this is why you don't come for women like me. I wanted to speak. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call the police. But shame glued my tongue to the roof of my mouth. The security men stepped forward slightly, not toward her, toward me. A message without words. Back off. I looked at them, then at her, then at the crowd filming. And that was the moment I realized something terrifying. In that street, in that neighborhood, I wasn't the victim in their eyes. I was the problem, because she carried herself like she belonged to power. And power, in public, looks like truth. I swallowed hard and backed away from the car. Lena took one last look at the cracked glass, then at me. And she delivered the line that finished me. You should have told me you were still struggling. She said it again, this time louder, like she wanted the cameras to take it home. Then she turned and walked back toward the gate like nothing happened. The security men followed. The gate opened. She disappeared inside. And I stood there, alone, while the crowd kept filming me like I was entertainment. I got into the car, hands shaking, and drove away with a shattered windscreen and a shattered dignity. Every red light felt like a stage. Every passing car felt like a witness. By the time I got home, my hands were numb. I sat on my couch in silence, staring at the wall, while the video of my humiliation spread without my permission. Because of course it spread. By midnight, a friend sent me a link. Bro, is this you? I didn't click it at first. I couldn't. But the notifications didn't stop. Messages. Calls. People asking questions I couldn't answer. When I finally clicked the video, my stomach turned. The angle was perfect. The sound was clear. Her voice came through sharp and clean. And there I was, standing there, trying to explain, looking like a man begging for respect from someone who didn't even see him as human. The caption on the repost said, "Man tries to pick up rich girl. Gets humbled." The comments were worse. Why did he even try? She ate him up. He should stay in his lane. But then something else started to happen. A different type of comment appeared. Wait, why does she have security? Is that her house? That neighborhood looks like government people. Who is she? The internet doesn't let mysteries rest. By morning, someone had her name. By afternoon, someone had her father. And that's when everything shifted. Because Lena wasn't just a rich girl. She was the daughter of a man whose face had been on campaign posters all over the city for weeks. A man who preached humility, service, respect. A man running for a seat that required public trust. And now his daughter was trending, hammer in hand, humiliating a man over a car. The story changed overnight. News pages picked it up. Bloggers dug into it. People started stitching the video with commentary. A hashtag formed. And then the public anger started. Not the online angry for fun kind. The real kind. Videos of protests popped up. People holding printed photos of the windscreen scene. Others holding screenshots of her dragging my shirt from another angle someone captured before the hammer moment. Because yes, at one point in the chaos, she had grabbed my jacket and yanked it like I was a child. Her father's campaign team tried to delete things. But you can't delete something the internet has already eaten. They released a statement. We do not condone. Nobody cared. People wanted accountability, not grammar. Days later, I got a call from an unknown number. A calm voice said my name. Is this the gentleman involved in the incident with Ms. Lena? I nearly dropped the phone. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know who to trust. The voice continued. We'd like to speak with you formally. Privately. I almost laughed. Privately? My humiliation had been public. Viral. Permanent. But I agreed to meet. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted my life back. The meeting happened in a quiet office downtown. Not police. Not court. Campaign people. Lawyers. Smiles that didn't mean anything. They offered to pay for the car. Replace the windscreen. Settle. They kept using that word like my dignity was an invoice. I looked at them and said the only honest thing in my chest. I don't want your money. I want her to understand what she did. They exchanged looks like I had asked for the moon. One of them leaned forward and said, She's under a lot of pressure. I almost stood up. Pressure? She held a hammer and smiled. That wasn't pressure. That was character. I left the meeting without signing anything. And maybe that's why the karma hit harder. Because when you refuse to be bought, the truth gets louder. The public outrage grew. Protesters marched. Screens in the city replayed the viral moment like a warning about unchecked power. Her father's opponents used it like a weapon. Debates turned ugly. People asked him point-blank on live TV, if you can't raise a daughter with humility, how will you lead a nation? He tried to answer. He smiled. He blamed misinformation. But everyone had seen the video. And the more he denied, the more people got angry. The polls dropped. Not slowly. Suddenly, on election night, his campaign headquarters looked like a funeral home. Reporters stood outside, waiting. Inside, the man who had once waved confidently from podiums sat at his desk with his face covered in his hands. And behind him, like the shadow of his downfall, stood his daughter. Cold, quiet, detached. The same girl who held a hammer like it was nothing. And me? I watched it on TV at home, sitting on the same couch where I had stared at the wall days earlier, feeling like the world had ended. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just breathed, because sometimes karma doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with exposure, with consequences, with the world finally seeing what you saw first. And the craziest part? Weeks later, a message came through the same dating app. An account with no photos, no name, just a blank profile. The message said, Are you happy now? I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed. I was never trying to destroy anyone. I was just trying to live. I blocked the account. And that was the real ending for me. Not the election loss, not the trending hashtags, not the protests. The real ending was realizing that my worth was never supposed to be decided by someone else's arrogance. Not by a girl in a red dress. Not by a crowd with phones. Not by the internet. Because the truth is that night on the dating app, I wasn't looking for a match. I was looking for a reason to believe love didn't require humiliation. Now I know better. And if you've ever been judged by what you drive, what you wear, what you don't have yet, remember this. People who truly value you don't need you to prove your worth with symbols. They don't need you to bleed shame just to feel powerful. And the ones who do, the world eventually sees them. It always does.